-40 degrees. The wind is screaming. Every inch of exposed skin on this person's face is at risk. Their nose, their cheeks, their ears. They're wrapped in fur, wool, and 3 layers of synthetic insulation. But there's one part of them that isn't covered. One part that's been left completely exposed to air cold enough to snap a plastic ruler in half. Their eyes. No goggles. No glass. Just a thin film of liquid, sitting in the open air in temperatures that would freeze a puddle solid in under a minute. So why isn't it frozen? Let's start with a basic fact everyone learns in school. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius. That's it. That's the line. Below that number, liquid water becomes solid ice. No negotiation, no exceptions. Unless you change what's in the water, which we'll get to later. Now think about what your eye actually is, physically. It's not a solid, dry structure like a fingernail or a tooth. The surface of your eye is constantly coated in liquid. Tears, produced continuously, spread across the surface every time you blink. Behind that, the eyeball itself is mostly water, held inside a thin membrane. By every rule of basic physics, this should be one of the most vulnerable parts of your body in extreme cold. Not the least vulnerable. And yet, people who live and work in some of the coldest environments on Earth leave this part of their body completely uncovered. Arctic researchers in Antarctica, Siberian reindeer herders, ice road truckers in northern Canada. Even polar bears, who are arguably the best cold weather adapted mammal on the planet, don't have any specialized eye covering. Meanwhile, if any of them left a bare hand out in that same air for even a few minutes, they'd risk frostbite serious enough to lose fingers. So what is it about the eye? A wet, exposed, delicate structure that lets it dodge a fate that skin can't escape? The answer comes down to 3 separate systems working together. And once you understand them, you'll also understand exactly where the limit is. Because this protection isn't unlimited. There's a point where it does fail, and it's more disturbing than you'd expect. To understand why eyes are different, you have to understand what your body does to the rest of you when it gets cold. When your core temperature drops, your body makes a ruthless triage decision. It starts shutting down blood flow to your extremities, fingers, toes, ears, nose, in order to protect your internal organs and your brain. This is called vasoconstriction. Blood vessels near the skin's surface tighten and narrow, cutting the flow of warm blood to areas your body considers expendable in a survival situation. That's exactly why frostbite happens where it does. Your fingertips aren't unusually fragile. They're just first on the list of things your body is willing to sacrifice. But your eyes don't get put on that list. Vision is too valuable for survival. An animal, or a human, that can't see is an animal that can't find shelter, can't spot a predator, can't navigate home. So the blood vessels feeding the eyes stay open, delivering a steady, strong current of warm blood, even while blood is being pulled away from your fingers just inches away. In fact, in extreme cold, your body often redirects even more blood toward the head and brain, which means the eyes end up sitting in a small, well-supplied pocket of warmth, surrounded by a body that is otherwise rationing heat everywhere else. It's not that your eyes are naturally resistant to cold. It's that your body is actively, continuously fighting to keep them warm, for as long as it has the resources to do it. The second reason has nothing to do with blood and everything to do with architecture. We tend to picture the eye as this small round ball sitting exposed on the front of the face. But that's only the tiny visible portion. Most of the actual eyeball is buried deep inside a bony socket called the orbit, surrounded on nearly every side by fat, connective tissue, and muscle. That fat isn't just cushioning. It acts as insulation, the same way a layer of blubber keeps a seal warm in freezing ocean water. The bone of the skull itself adds another physical barrier between the eye and the outside air. So when cold wind hits your face, it's really only interacting with a small, forward-facing surface, the cornea and the tear film sitting on top of it. Everything behind that thin front layer is packed in insulating material, tucked inside a skull that's radiating body heat outward. Compare that to a finger. A finger is almost entirely surface area, skin wrapped around bone and a small amount of tissue, with very little insulating fat and blood vessels sitting close to the surface where they lose heat fast. There's nowhere to hide from the cold. The eye, by contrast, is mostly hidden. You're only ever exposing the tip of the iceberg. Pun very much intended. Here's the part that surprises most people. Even the thin film of liquid sitting directly on the surface of your eye has its own built-in defense. Tears aren't pure water. They're a mix of water, salts, oils, and proteins. And that salt content matters more than you'd think. This is basic chemistry called freezing point depression. Adding salt to water disrupts the way water molecules link together into ice crystals, forcing the temperature to drop further before freezing can actually happen. It's the exact same principle behind salting icy roads and sidewalks in winter. Salt doesn't melt ice by heating it up, it just makes the water resist freezing at temperatures it normally would freeze at. Because tears are salty, they don't turn solid at the standard 32 degrees Fahrenheit that plain water does. Their freezing point drops several degrees lower. Now, that doesn't mean tears are completely immune. In truly extreme cold, tears absolutely can start to thicken, gum up your eyelashes, and even form small ice crystals on the surface, which is why your eyelashes can look frosted white in Arctic photos. But the eye itself, underneath that surface layer, stays protected, kept liquid by the salt content and kept warm by the blood supply flowing right behind it. 3 systems: warm blood that never gets cut off, physical insulation hiding most of the structure, and a surface liquid that resists freezing chemically. Stack those together, and you get an organ that can survive open exposure to conditions that would frostbite skin in minutes. Here's the twist, though, because this system isn't invincible. It has a breaking point. Ultra-endurance athletes who compete in polar races run in temperatures colder than a home freezer for hours at a time, have developed a documented condition where the cornea specifically starts to freeze. Not the whole eye, just that thin, exposed front surface. This happens when cold exposure is prolonged enough and intense enough that even the constant blood flow and salt content in tears can't keep up. The blood vessels in the cornea constrict, the surface temperature keeps dropping, and localized freezing damage can actually occur. A condition distinct from ordinary frostbite, specific to the eye. Skiers and snowboarders without proper eye protection have reported similar injuries in extreme wind chill. So the honest answer to why don't your eyes freeze isn't they can't. It's they're extremely good at resisting it, right up until the conditions get bad enough for long enough. At which point even the best defended organ in your body starts to lose the fight. And here's the detail that makes this whole story a little unsettling once you sit with it. Every single one of these protections is active, not passive. The warm blood flow, the constant physiological effort to keep vessels open, the body radiating heat outward from a beating heart. All of it depends entirely on being alive. The moment a person dies in a cold environment, that active protection stops immediately. The blood stops moving. The body stops generating heat. And the eyes, the same eyes that survived hours in brutal Arctic wind while the person was alive, will freeze solid, just like any other exposed tissue, within a relatively short time. The eye was never immune to cold. It was being defended from it every second by a living system working specifically to keep it that way. And in a strange final twist, doctors have actually figured out how to deliberately freeze part of the eye on purpose and use it as treatment. It's called retinal cryotherapy, a real procedure where a controlled freezing tool is used on the retina to treat certain types of retinal tears or detachment, sealing tissue back into place. So the eye that seems untouchable in a blizzard can, in a quiet clinical room, be frozen on command, just not by the weather. So next time you're outside on a brutally cold day and your fingers are aching under 3 layers of gloves, take a second to think about your eyes. Uncovered, exposed, sitting in freezing air. They're not freezing because your body has quietly decided they're worth protecting no matter the cost. Pumping them with warm blood, burying most of their structure in insulation, and coating them in a liquid chemically built to resist ice. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's one of the most consistent, least appreciated survival systems your body runs every single day, without you ever noticing it's happening. If your eyes can pull off something this impressive without you even realizing it, imagine what else is happening inside your body right now that seems impossible until you actually look at the science behind it.